Thank you for joining me on my journey I call Looking for Signs. This is my application of philosophy of the intangible and the tangible, the involution and the evolution, the subjective and objective of all things, how we can put things into our mind and put them in practice or into the physical reality through discipline, momentum, and part of my way of doing that is looking at books, looking at physical, objective symbols, and see if they resonate with the subjective, intangible, our emotions, thoughts, feelings that are things we can't see and touch with our physical hands. So, or see with the physical eye, these intangible parts of reality. So, by doing that and testing the subjective and objective, my way of looking for signs that there's something to all the chaos and malevolence and maliciousness that we experience in our life. And these astrology transits in the last week or so have been very intense and fortifying change. Big changes that we might not have expected. And I had pulled these couple cards the other day. I like to read both tarot and oracle cards just to see if the signs, the objective symbols, resonate with the intangible, how we think and feel about our physical circumstances and situations. So reading these three cards I thought were really interesting. I like to look for my signs, helps bring me peace and where we are in our circumstances in our life. We have first the Singer of Courage. Now, each of these were interesting because I have pulled three cards, 8, 18, and 28. The first card being the Singer of Courage. The second card, the Lady of the Harvest, number 18. And the third card, 28, Penelope, Dream Weaver. Dream Weaver. So this comes from the Fairy Oracle deck. If anyone knows of Brian Freud, he's a great artist. He's written many books and a lot of fairy books as well. But as I read these, I couldn't help but think, wow, spot on. And I didn't read them till later on during the day after some chaos had transpired, and it really brought me a lot of peace. So I wanted to share these meanings of these cards as I was looking for signs, the objective symbols that would resonate with how I feel about all the chaos going on. Okay, so let's see. Number 8, the Singer of Courage. Bravery, sublimation of fear, moral strength. And we talk about this different symbology, moving through different crevices and different births and things. Let's see what it says. So we have, someone once said that courage is not the absence of fear, but that which enables us to experience fear and not be stopped by it. It is also what enables us to do what we believe to be right, even when there is pressure from others around us to do otherwise. It is what enables us to go ahead into the unknown of the perilous, where there are no guarantees of safety or security. In our lives, we are often, even constantly, confronted with a new world, a new way of being in the world, a new way of seeing and of being seen. Ordinary living takes courage. And to rise above the ordinary into the extraordinary takes even more courage. One of the keys to courage is to consider the fear and find a way to let the energy of the fear itself power the action. That is true courage. Often people think of courage as being part of high heroism. It is, but it also has its quiet, hidden side as well, which I think is the most powerful, which I am working on, the power of silence. And that may require greater courage because we cannot expect the rewards of praise and approval for it. For example, no courage is needed to be unhappy and self-pitying. We do not need to be self-disciplined or wise for that. However, to open our hearts to the risk and vulnerability of joy and trust requires all of those things, especially courage, especially when things go wrong, that we have to go with the flow and see what happens next. Within each of us, there is the terrified inner mouse, and there is the brave inner hero. Either part of us can take over from the other. We get to choose which is in charge. The mouse is a magician with only one trick. It can cast an illusion that is as big as an elephant. Then fear nearly overwhelms us, but we still have choice. Learning to live with and manage the reactive animal within involves transforming emotions like rage and fear into courage through self-discipline and the help of the singer of courage. In the starter reading, most people have decided by the age of 3 or 4 what they must do in order to survive. From this decision, this belief about how the world is, most of our fears and self-limitations grow. Have we the courage to discover and break through these self-limiting beliefs, awaken to greater possibilities, and go for our objectives? We need to transcend our fears and accept the gift of courage. In the reverse, when the song of courage has grown faint, we feel overcome by fear and self-doubt. The questions we need to ask ourselves begin with, what am I really afraid of? Quite often, deep soul searching enables us to discover that our true fears are hidden behind our false fears. It is impossible to face false fears because they are merely shapeshifters and shadows, without substance, continually changing form. Facing a real fear is much easier because it doesn't keep changing the rules and moving the goalposts. The question then becomes, what can I do to open my heart to courage so when I feel fear, I can follow through on what I want and need to do? As an Oracle group member wisely suggests, another question to ask is, what else is present? She notes, when fear of any kind arises in the mind, more space is allowed in the heart if one acknowledges the fear, while at the same time looking for whatever else besides the fear is also there. Thus, one neither ignores nor gives too much focus to the fear itself, and more space opens up within which the fear can be explored and liberated. Fairy wings formed of shifting light, emotion, and energy are the manifestation of the power of those beings that transcend the mundane world. Shifting light, emotion, and energy. Transcending rage and fear. Okay, let's go to our next one. It just got better and better. I really loved reading this. So 18 was the Lady of the Harvest. So it is Leo season. So the 8s are prominent in Leo season. We just moved into Virgo season as of the 22nd. But the Lady of the Harvest. She's very pretty here. We're going to find out why this picture looks the way it does here. Completion, grief, loss, harvest, release. After we have experienced the nurturing and fulfillment of the bright mother, the Lady of the Harvest, also called the Old Woman or Crone, helps us to let go of what is finished and liberate ourselves to move on to the next phase of our activities and relationships. As in the natural world, the old becomes compost for new growth in our lives. The Lady helps us to adapt, to change, and release. Often we associate the Lady of the Harvest with loss, regret, and grief, and often we are right to do so. The basic phases of grief are shock, denial, anger, guilt, emotional storm, acceptance, regaining of perspective, the beginning of healing, and the deepening of our capacity for love. The Lady of the Harvest understands grief and is patient and kind as we go through the sometimes painful process of letting go. We may well need to be patient and kind with ourselves. We should note here that the grieving process is the same for little losses and larger ones. Only the time scale and the intensity of the emotions vary. but they vary enormously. We might go through all the grieving stages of a loss small in a few minutes, while it may take years for a greater loss. On the other side of this letting go business, there are many things that make us lighter and happier when we release them. Old traumas, tasks, or stages in our lives that we are glad to have finished, unhappy relationships, or feelings that cause us pain and inhibit our growth. Sometimes we simply comfortably finish with one aspect of our lives and move on to the next, happily anticipated one. Such releases are cause for celebration, and the old woman joyfully celebrates with us. In this card, we see both the patient acceptance of loss and the joyful celebration of liberation. When we liberate something in ourselves or in the world, we grow to be more like the Lady of the Harvest, developing her capacities within us. In a starter reading, it is time to accept change, to move on to the next phase. Power and strength in the present and future come from releasing the past. This is a time of liberation, and we might as well cooperate with it. It will happen whether we want it to or not. Release and liberation may be painful or joyful depending on the circumstances. Cry if you need to, be joyful if this is appropriate, but in either case, trust the process, acknowledge what you feel, and prepare to move on. In the reverse, when we block the liberating energy of the lady, we may refuse to accept a loss or cling to outgrown pain, traumas, or limiting ideas. We may deny reality. Shock and denial are the first stage of grief, but we need to move on past to eventually gain a healthy balance in the present. If we stay in denial, the grief cannot heal. Denial can be the denial of reality or the denial of our feelings. Either one prevents us from moving on to healing. The universe moves on. We have no choice, really, but to move on with it. Twisted, the energy of release can move in various directions. One can possibly be the letting go program, an automatic process like a computer program where we compulsively push away things we actually want and need. Another twist on this is to turn away from the things in our lives that give us satisfaction, fulfillment, or joy because we cannot have one thing we want. So it seems reasonable to have nothing at all. This kind of sulking can easily be carried to an extreme. The destructive mode of release can be summarized by the bumper sticker saying, if you love something, let it go. If it doesn't come back, hunt it down and kill it. That's not good. This is the if I can't have it, no one will attitude. From the outside, such attitudes seem obviously stupid and selfish, but to someone caught in one of the less rational stages of the grieving process, they may seem the only solution, a solution that is not a solution to any at all. They may seem. So 28, our last one here is Penelope Dreamweaver. So let's see, this is what she looks like again here. Is she pretty? She's so pretty. I think she's so pretty. Okay, here we go. Penelope Dreamweaver, inspiration, magical dreams, visions. Weaver of dreams, bringer of visions, muse of artistic inspiration. Penelope weaves tapestries in the mind with threads of light, color, and sound. When she comes to us in dreams, we waken under her enchantment and rush for our paints or clay or other forms of expression. In this painting, Brian has shown us Penelope, his own inspiration fairy, but we each have one who is more than willing to help us. Mine says to call her Grace because she says she isn't exactly someone I deserve, just someone I'm lucky enough to have in my life. So this is Penelope Dreamweaver. This is the part of our spirit that gives us our inspiration, our visions, our ideas. All of a sudden that impulse, we're like, oh wait, What if we do this? This epiphany. This is our dream weaver, or to our author here, calls her Grace, describing all these different fairies. She plays hard at inspiring me, as does Penelope with Brian, who is another author here. So they're discussing how these fairies affect them. Penelope says she is very pleased with Brian's result of her inspirations, but when I looked hopefully at my Grace to see what she thinks about me, she just shrugs her shoulders. Like, I gave you this great idea. Let's go. Are you gonna do anything about it, or are you just gonna sit there? Then she flashes me a wicked grin. So I think it's all right. Inspiration fairies like their jobs, but they get really bored when people don't pay attention to them. Then they sit around and file their fingernails while they think troublesome and mischievous thoughts. Sometimes they get exasperated, enough to send us nightmares in an attempt to get us to wake up. These fairies and their sisters, the fairies of expression, work together as teams, helping us in our creative endeavors. Work together in teams. The fairies of inspiration sprinkle us with special inspirational fairy dust so that we come up with ideas. Rather like fertilizing a plant, and you know what plants are fertilized with. Grace says, then their sisters, the fairies of expression, help us to give form to our creativity, manifesting it with our own particular talents. And those nightmares will come up, those fears, when we don't act. They call it the diminish of enthusiasm, or the diminish of motivation, when we don't strike while the iron's hot and we lose that motivation and we're not able to act on those dreams and those inspirations that are deep within us. Then we get angry, we get fearful, we have doubts. We're like, that wouldn't work anyway, or that would be stupid. People think I'm dumb, or I don't have time for that. How could I possibly do that? That makes no sense. So, nightmares. Start a reading. Seek visions and inspiration. Be aware that they are often subtle and require close attention. Those little ideas. What if this would work? Or maybe I should, or what if I, those little ideas are gonna pay off. Fantasies, dreams, and daydreams are all places as inspiration fairy can contact us. An inspiration fairy can contact us, like Grace or Penelope Dreamweaver. But she can also pop up unannounced in the midst of most ordinary of activities, in the bath, washing the dishes, driving the car, anywhere else in our mind. When our mind is half occupied and half running on idle, pay special attention to unsought inspirations at this time. They have something wonderful to offer you, but it's up to you to catch them and bring them into reality. And I often find they say, when we're doing those tasks and we're somewhat occupied, even when we're sitting down and we have our legs crossed, that we're using the brain in tandem. It's bringing us back to our alpha state, or these hertz. This momentum of thinking has slowed down, and it can allow ideas and allow thoughts. In the reverse, you may feel that your creative expression is blocked or even dead. You may have been trying too hard, working too hard. This is a time to back off and do the things that renew and inspire you. Cut loose from the mundane world and give yourself time to enjoy your own fantasies and dreams. Then choose what you want to bring into manifestation and begin to create it. Even if you think you can't, creation is one of the primary factors in the maintenance of sanity. Humor is another. So if you produce laughable results, you get 2 benefits for the effort of 1. Alternatively, you may have been ignoring your inspiration fairy's prompting, turning away from your own creativity. When we deny expression to our creative impulses, our creative energy tends to sour within us, causing problems with health, relationships, and other aspects of life. Denial of the possibilities put forth by our creative imaginations, or allowing only the destructive possibilities of creativity to be considered are also serious problems, and as is a referral to learn from our dreams. Perhaps someone in this state of denial or blocking is also discouraging our creative impulses, or perhaps we are doing it to ourselves or others. If the first, the querent must learn to disregard this bad influence. If the second, an immediate change of attitude is urgently needed at this time. Interestingly, Penelope and Grace tell me that whining about the unfairness of life instead of doing something to make it better is also linked with a symptom of suppression of one's creative energies. Oh, so many changes, and when things are unfair, sometimes we have to trust the universe, get into a good place of peace and rest where we can find some joy, accept these things and these crazy things that have happened, and accept them with grace, because there are good things to come. Better things are coming. Better things are coming. So many good things are coming. I'm so excited. So there's something deep in my heart that knows these big changes are taking place. So we get something that we deserve. Opportunities are rolling in, and from all different angles. So I'm very excited. My discipline has got me to this point. It's been 3 years since I moved to Detroit to tell our story. I had my eye on an apartment. They denied me for the apartment and tried to say it was over poor credit, which my credit is over 700. It's 719 now. The bank just pulled it. They didn't even run a proper credit report after paying $250 for this application fee. The housing market was crap, and I thought I was like, okay, I ended up back at this one apartment I looked at 3 years ago. I thought if I saved enough money, I'd have a down payment as a first-time home buyer. So I was like, wow, no way, the housing market's crap, I'm going back to this apartment. They denied me, and I thought, wow, this is a sign from the universe that I was going back to the same apartment. Well, no, the universe said something better. So now I am actually on the water with my own dock slips and my own boat slips, 3 boat slips. And I was on the water in Detroit for an apartment that was very tiny and would have to rent out the boat slip from the city next door and all this, and was working on these goals. And so I made it, and the angels, the stars, the heavens have something even bigger planned for us. Even though we thought it was all perfect and we thought we knew what we were doing, there's better around the corner. So get excited, good things to come. Hope that helps somebody, if somebody needed to hear a message today. And keep up with my looking for signs journey. Thank you all for sharing my story. Love and light, Frosty Detroit.